Almost if you took that as the beginning of the blank template, by, date, I will. Fill the date in, and then I will, ... fill the rest in. And that's where you start. I'm not saying it'll be right first time, but that gets you to think about the date that you want to achieve something by, and the, I will, that positive commitment of something you're going to do.
The question is, from Thinking Focus.
So the question is, why can't goal writing be easy? Hi, I'm Paul from Thinking Focus.
Hi, I'm Richard from Thinking Focus.
The question is, from Thinking Focus, a podcast about how our thinking impacts our results and what we can do about it.
Okay, so why can't goal writing be easy? I think, to start with, I think that's because people have never really been shown how to do it, have they? It's not like you do it at school.
No,
it's not like you do it. It's not necessarily like you do it at university or stuff like that, is it?
No, and actually, I think for me, particularly I think back to the early part of my career, there was lots of people who would treat it like a mystic art form as well, like you needed to all crowd around a, secret, crystal
Really?
Ball of goal writing.
Right, yeah.
But maybe you've not experienced this, but I did. People would talk about goals like they were magical and there were special ways of writing them. And isn't it in the essence of going, you need to go on a training course to learn how to write a goal?
Yeah, I suppose. Or you could buy some management theory book or something, and there'd be a section about goals, and it'd have all this mysterious stuff.
And I think people build it up to being something that it isn't.
Yeah.
That it's really complicated, or it's really tricky, or that it's just for the experts.
Yeah.
And also, I think there are some people who get a little bit over the top about goals.
How do you mean, over the top?
So, well, you've experienced this. That goal isn't quite right because of this little nuance, or that little nuance, or you should have written it this way or that way, and actually, to me, that's
or you didn't get the technique right for doing it.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
It's like it's. I don't know. It's like you're going to get marked on it. It's almost Strictly Come goal writing. 7. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
And you kind of go. There's definitely an 80-20 thing on goals that 80% of the value is just actually in having a half decent structured goal.
Yeah, and just. I agree, and about thinking about it.
Yeah.
And having a go at it.
Yeah.
But I do think no one ever showed you how to do it, or really, unless, like you say, you read some sort of book or you went on some sort of course, no one really ever shows you how to do it. And I think that's why people sort of go, well, which leads on to one of the other answers I was going to give to your question, was because we don't know where to start. So how do I start then? Where do I start if I'm writing a goal?
Okay, that's a good question. Where do you start?
What do you do? Yeah. So I think
I'm actually asking the question, where do you start?
Oh, you're asking me? Right.
Yeah.
So I think one is perhaps, as we've perhaps alluded to before, is you need to make a list of what might your goal be about. You might have a bit of a wish list. And then once you've got that, you then go, okay, so what do I want and when do I want it? So I think the easiest way to begin is to go by, pick a date, so you go 1st of October and then the year. I will, and then you're going to fill in the rest. So it's almost if you took that as the beginning of the blank template, by, date, I will. Fill the date in, and then I will, ... fill the rest in. And that's where you start. I'm not saying it'll be right first time, but that gets you to think about the date that you want to achieve something by, and the, I will, that positive commitment of something you're going to do.
And I think they're really important bits in goal writing, aren't they? They're the only kind of really important bits. And deliberately so, because I think back to times in my career when I've done this, where I've deliberately gone by the end of next month or by sometime in next quarter.
So you've been quite vague?
Yeah, but I don't think I'm being vague. Actually, I'm being honest about it. I'm giving myself as much possible wiggle room as I can.
Yeah.
Because I'm thinking, well, goals are a commitment and I'm not sure I want to commit.
And that might be an issue if it's a goal, an objective that's being set at work. And maybe it's something that you've got to do, but you're not really that motivated by it or not excited. Because we all have that. Goals are often given to you in a professional setting, in a corporate setting. And what you often observe is people do exactly that they will then say, by the end of quarter 4, because that gives me, as much time as possible, or by the end of quarter 3, or whatever that might be, to do it. But I think one of the things that is really helpful is to actually pick a date.
Yeah, a real
date.
Day, month, year type date.
Yeah, and often, when I've done this over the years, often people go, but I don't know the day. So you sort of go, okay, well, pick one then. Because I think once you start to get really focused on a date, that then starts to play around with the other bits that you'll put in the goal.
Yes, but it's really interesting actually that when the I don't know the date bit, I think is linked to this idea that we're not allowed to change the goal, which is completely untrue.
Yeah, of course.
I think a lot of people come into this going, well, once I've put that goal out there in the world, it's either a black and white, I'm going to hit it, or I'm not, which is kind of really difficult.
You can change the date.
Yeah, well,
you can bring it forward. You can move it back.
Yeah, the reality is the second you start working towards anything, you're going to understand more about it. You're going to have loads more information, and the world is going to change.
Yeah,
you can't do anything about that.
But you're right. There is a nervousness to pick a date because I think you said before, I'm making a commitment.
Yeah,
and sometimes, unless it's a goal that you are so motivated for, that means so much to you in your life, that is the whole reason that you get out of bed every day, unless it's that type of thing, then there seems to be a little nervousness around picking a date and committing. However, I think there's a bit of magic that happens that when you do commit, and when it does mean something to you, that really allows you to start focusing and really allows you to start working on it. And that takes me on to another point, is that I think not just about we don't know where to start, but actually when we do start, often we can be too vague and we can play it safe, as you were saying. So you push the date out, but maybe even in the the bit that goes I will ... we play it safe in that bit.
Well, those two words, I will, are really kind of tough words, aren't they? Because they're commitment words.
Yeah, they are.
Yeah, they're not like
I might.
Yeah, or I'll be somewhere around, or it would be nice if I had, or I will is
or
a
we
straight,
could.
Yeah. Which is, again, the other thing that I think a lot of people do, because it's nice to be vague. It feels a bit safer.
You can't be held. It's harder to be held accountable
exactly.
for something that's vague, isn't it?
Yes.
Whereas what we're talking about here is start with the buy, get a real date, I will, and then get as sharp as you can.
So what do you mean by that, as sharp as you can?
Well, in the statement that comes next. After the I will. So I will roughly have achieved half of my annual target, for example, making it up. Yeah. Well, actually, that's I will roughly have achieved half. There's a lot of wriggle room, isn't there?
Yeah.
So get it sharp that says I will be at 75% of my annual target on the date that you gave before. So you've got really sharp, so you'll know whether you're there or you're not.
So you're trying to get the goal to as black and white as possible.
Yeah, a colleague of mine used to call it picture perfect clarity, which I like that phrase.
Yeah,
in your goal, can you get picture perfect clarity of where you will be on that date that you committed to in your goal?
And I love the idea of the ultimate test being give it to somebody else.
Yeah,
because if they understand it straight, if they can go, oh, I know exactly what that is, then you've got picture perfect clarity.
Yeah.
And if they're going, well, do you mean this or do you mean that? Then you clearly haven't.
Then you haven't got it. But I think that's a thing that because as you mentioned, we don't want to commit to a date. We also don't want to commit to something that perhaps we can be held accountable for. And I don't mean we as in all the time, every time. Sometimes we're unsure, and what that means is often we haven't given it enough thought. We haven't given it enough thought about, do I really want this? And what do I really want to do?
Or actually, we just don't know enough. We're committing to a goal, knowing that actually the first step of whatever we're going to do is really more fact-finding or understanding or learning. And I think that's okay. I think it's important to acknowledge
that it can change.
Yeah.
So have a go, write something down, by date, real date, I will, fill the rest of that sentence in, have a go, and as you put it, you might go off and start working on it and learn some things, and it needs to change, and that's fine.
So that's a good starting point, to pick something off that wish list.
Yeah.
Look at it and go, specifically, when is it that I want to have achieved this by?
Yeah.
A date.
Yeah.
A real point in time in the future.
And what specifically is it I will have achieved? So you write it out and then get going. And maybe, as you say, share it with someone, which is an interesting little side point before we finish, that sharing it with someone often is a good way of making you feel more accountable.
Yeah, because we like to...
if I've told Paul all about it, then actually, you know what, I better go do it.
Yeah, because it's actually quite difficult to come back and say, no, we didn't do what we said we were going to do.
Yeah.
So just by the nature of sharing a goal makes it a little bit more sticky.
Yeah, you can be held accountable, can't you?
Next time on The Question Is...
You have to be led by a clue. If your clue is around feelings, right, more confident, being more able to do something, you're going to have to use something that's more of a benchmark for that, precisely because you can't measure it. So if it's quantitative, then you can usually use something like SMART. If it's qualitative, about something that you'd really like to be or feel better about, then you want a benchmark. Something that is big picture aspirational is almost a mixture of both.
To find out how Thinking Focus can unlock the potential within your organisation, go to www.thinkingfocus.com, where you'll discover more about the work we do, helping our clients increase productivity and enable change.